closer and hold it up where they can hear you, okay? There's a place dear to me where I'm longing to be with my friends at the old country church. With my family we went and our Sabbaths we spent with our friends at the old country church. Precious years of memories, oh what joy they bring to me. How I long once more to be with my friends at the old country church. Many years I did spend led by God's helping hand with my friends at the old country church. And someday I will be in heaven, you'll see, with my friends at the old country church. Precious years of memories, oh what joy they bring to me. How I long once more to be with my friends at the old country church. Okay, let's go.
So beautiful. You know, most of you, I think, are more aware of my style of preaching is exegetical. I like to get into one part of Scripture and really just talk about that and bring out whatever it's saying, and that's what I really like to do. Sometimes God says, well, I have a message that is different. I need you to give a message from a particular text, more eisegesis type preaching. And so what I want to talk about today is this message right here, societal apathy. And let me tell you how this happened. I was asking the Lord, what's the message? What's the message? I'm driving down the road. I'm headed over to Jay because we have a food bank over there on Mondays, every other Monday. Second, fourth Monday of the month. I was headed over there, and I said, Lord, I was praying, what's the message going to be about this week? And man, he just hit me with John 9, verse 4. And I was like, okay. So I'm thinking about it as I'm driving, and I get over to the food bank. And while I was there, I never have more than one person reject me with prayer. We'll serve about 100, 120 families, and man, never been rejected more than once. That day, I got this scripture. I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day, because the night is coming when no one can work. And I was thinking, why this? You know how many people rejected me for prayer that day? 11. 11 people rejected me that day that he gave me this verse. And so I was like, wow, Lord, it's really getting to that point very fast, isn't it? That people are getting their snaps shut off and need food and need help, and they're coming to the church and they're asking for the physical food. I offer prayer, I offer a Bible study, and they don't want nothing to do with it. They're like, you can give me your money, give me your food, but I don't want your religion. I don't want your belief system. I don't want that God or anything like that. Is society gotten to the place where they're just apathetic? Have they gotten, not everyone, but my argument is this, that as you look at the horizon, the sun is no longer up at 12 o'clock. It's down there, and it's about to get dark. Who's the light of the world? Jesus. When he gets rejected, what's that leave? Darkness. Jesus said himself, I got to work while I got the opportunity, because the time is coming when no one can work. What is apatheism? I went to get a good definition off of the internet, and this is what it says. It says, in societal situations where the discussion of religion is frowned upon, the apatheist is perfectly happy and welcome, and the apatheist might attend a religious ceremony, a type of religious person, and appreciate the beauty of the music. They can appreciate the religious art, the rituals, but it will not bother them to take a position on whether the God or the gods that are being talked about are even worshipped. So a person that's an apatheist might be somebody who necessarily is not an atheist. It's not that they don't believe in God. They just don't care. When you talk to them about spiritual things, the Bible, you try to do a Bible study, it's this number. No, well, I don't care. I'm good with it either way. You can talk about it or not. Doesn't bother me. That's an apatheism. There's reasons why people have gotten to this point where they're not interested. And I'm going to go through a few of them, but this is not an exhaustive list. This is only a few. I came up with 11. Disbelief in God. Some people they are atheists, and so they're not interested. Others, they had an interest at one time, but maybe they heard a story like what we heard today where if you pray and you seek God, He'll answer that prayer, but they did and it didn't get answered, or at least not the way they wanted it to be answered. And so they have low faith. Maybe they don't see God working in their life. Some people are self-sufficient. I can do it myself. I don't need God. I don't need the church. Others, they do it. They're not interested because they're afraid. Well, if I go to church, I'm going to be required to do this and that, or I'm going to have to, they're just scared. I'm giving you these reasons because I want you to understand either where you're at or where the people are who are not wanting to have anything to do with God. Another reason, they're angry with Him or they're angry with the church. They came, something was said, something was done, and now they're just upset. Unforgiving. They just have a hardened heart. Guilt or feeling ashamed. If I go, I'm going to feel guilty. I just don't want to feel guilty. I don't want to hear about God and this and that. Feeling helpless. What am I supposed to do? Unanswered prayers and pride. One of the biggest ones is privacy. People don't want to share. They don't want to open up, and they're scared if they go to church, that's what's going to happen. So I went to read this article, and I wanted to see, from a worldly perspective, does anybody else think that apathy is out there? That the world is just in a state of I don't care. So I wanted to get it from from a non-believer's perspective. And I found this article, and I don't know if she was a believer or not, but she wasn't relating it to basically religion. And I found it in the Texas A&M article, and this is what it said. She said, "We endlessly consume, and we waste, and we wonder why, after all of our devouring, we're still unsatisfied. After acquiring all the technology, all the entertainment, all the plumbing, all the transportation, and the specialty coffee that we could possibly want is still not enough. After all our insatiable desires, we are still not fulfilled." In other words, we're coveters. We keep getting stuff and looking for more stuff, and yet we just don't seem to have a purpose. We don't seem to be fulfilled at all. We're empty. And so she says it's because the pursuit of comfort has what's become our religion. Do you think that's a true statement? Yeah. So, it's gotten to the point where people don't care about their soul. They don't care if they die today or tomorrow. What's gotten them there? All that list. Things have hurt them, and they're scared, or they just don't care anymore because it's like everything's out of my control, which leads them to believe that if there is a God, He's not really controlling this orbit, this round earth, because everything's just spinning out of control. And so they just get to the point where they don't really know what to believe, or they don't care. She goes on to say that to truly want something is to chase after it with your whole heart. If you truly love something, it's to protect it at all costs. And anything less than that is passivity hidden behind the thinly veiled facade of purposefulness. We pretend to have a purpose by going to work. We pretend to have a purpose by doing things for our immediate family, but nothing else and no one else. We basically don't chase after what we claim to be chasing after, which is God, with our whole heart. And that's why people have gotten to the place that they feel empty. They've allowed the work to get in the way, but others have not allowed work to become an issue. But I'm not talking about your work at where you get a salary. That's not the work I'm talking about. I'm talking about the place where you work for God's kingdom. Anyone here ever been part of a house building project, whether you were on a team or you built a house or you wanted the house built? We got one couple. If you were going to build yourself a house and you went and you hired a crew, and on that crew you show up one day and you're just coming to bring donuts and see how the progress was going. And you show up at your land and you look at all the people you're hiring, but you got a couple just sitting there on the plywood deck and they're just eating their apple. And you think, maybe they're on a break. Won't say nothing, just keep on going. They got a boss, the handyman, he'll take care of it. But then you come back the next day or whatever, and you just happen to notice, you left something, and you come back and you notice that they're still sitting there. And you're thinking, well, that's strange. Yesterday they were in that same spot, they haven't budged. So the next day you get your curiosity up and you say, well, I'm going to go check on it just to see. And you get out there and they're still sitting on the plywood. Everybody else is working, but they're sitting on the plywood. And so you think, well, I don't like that. So you go to the boss, the man you hired to do the job, say, why you got those lazy people out there not doing anything and you got all these other people working? Bring it to the boss's attention. What do you think the boss is going to do? You think the boss is going to be happy with his employees sitting out there on the plywood doing nothing? I wouldn't be. I'd be like, you're fired. Get out of here. You're not going to work? Leave. You're not needed. You're taking up space. You're taking up resources. You're not helping the matter. You're making it worse. You're actually taking money from the pocket. So you need to leave. Something to get their attention. Either get to work or get out of here. Anything less than serving God with your whole heart is passivity. You're just passing the time. And you're going to find that you're miserable. And when you're empty and miserable, the only way you're going to come alive and the only way you're going to find joy is if you start to serve the risen Savior. Start to serve God. What is He doing right now? What's going on in heaven? Is He just sitting there doing nothing? Or is He working? And if He's working and He's employed me to work, shouldn't I be working? If I don't start working now, it's going to come to a place where I'm not going to have any reward. I'm going to get to heaven, and I'm going to be high-fiving everybody because I made it. But then there's going to be another group over here that's not just high-fiving because they're there. They're going to be telling stories about how Jesus worked through them. He used me to do this. He used me to do that. He did that. And man, they're going to have all kinds of stories, and I want to be a part of that group. So I went to Ellen White's writings. I want to see what she said about it. She said in manuscript releases, Christ has given to all human beings their work, and we are to acknowledge the wisdom of that plan that He has made for us by a hearty cooperation with Him. It's in a life of service only that true happiness can be found. Those who live useless, selfish lives are miserable. They're dissatisfied with themselves and with everyone else. They find fault in everything. It's never good enough. There's always a reason. So, kept looking. She said, watch, pray, work. These are the Christians' watchwords. Let no one excuse themselves from labor for the saving of souls. Let no one deceive themselves into the belief that nothing is required of them. No less is required of any of them than was expected of the man who had 1 talent. You guys remember the parable about God gave 10 talents to one man, 5 to another, 10, 1 to the next? And what did He say when He got to the one who had the least talents? Did He say, well, I didn't give you a lot of talents like I gave them, so I'm going to excuse you? He held him accountable. I don't know what your talents are, but if your talents are being wasted, God's going to hold you accountable. Everybody has a gift, a talent. And nobody would like it if somebody else wasn't doing their job, right? Everybody should be working. I'm not saying you have to hold an office in the church. That's not what I'm saying. The work that I'm talking about is within your home. I want to know, are you praying for the people in your household? Amen. That's work. Are you giving Bible studies to your children? Are you offering to take them to church if they don't have a ride? Are you checking on your neighbor? Are you doing the work that God has called you to do? I'm not asking you to go out of your way and work in a field that God hasn't called you to. I'm asking you, are you taking care of those that God has placed within your responsibility? You don't have to win the world. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm not asking you to be a preacher, a teacher. I'm not asking you to lead a class. I'm not asking you to be the church treasurer or clerk or secretary or anything like that. But if you've attended church for years or you've given your life to Christ and yet it's always about you and you never try to bring someone to the feet of Christ, you're not working. And God's going to ask you, what did you do with those kids I gave you? What did you do with those grandkids? What did you do with those your uncles, your nieces, your nephews, your brother, your sister, your mother? Did you talk to them about me? Did you try to point them back to me? Did you pray for them? Did you do these things? Or did you pat them on the back and tell them it's okay? Must Christ, the majesty of heaven, the King of glory, bear the heavy cross and wear the thorny crown and drink the bitter cup while we recline at ease? Should we glorify ourselves and forget the souls He died to redeem by His precious blood? Let us give while we have the power. Let us do while we have the strength. Let us work while it's day. Let us devote our time and our means to the service of God so that we may have His praise and receive His reward. It's coming a time when we're not going to have the choice anymore. And I believe we're very close, like I mentioned earlier. But the question is, what's going to happen if we don't start praying for our family members? If we don't start giving Bible studies to those we care about? If we don't start pointing them back to the church, back to Christ's mission? If we get up in the morning, we go to earn our paycheck and that's it. And we go out and we eat and we get our coffees and we do this and we do that. And we don't have any idea about spiritual things. We don't care about the spiritual things at all. What's going to happen? What's going to take over? There's a quote out there that everybody's familiar with about, and it comes from John Stuart Mill. And what it is, it says, let not anyone pacify his conscience by the delusion that if he does nothing harmful, that he takes no part and forms no opinion. Because bad men don't need anything more than to just let compass their ends, than that the good men should look on and do nothing. You've heard that saying before? If you want bad things to happen, all you got to do is make sure that the good person doesn't do anything. And wickedness will take over. It's a true statement. And the question I have is, where's our men? Look around the room. Where is all the godly men? Where is everybody? The other day, I got a request that we start praying for our men. And you want to know what happened? Within a week, somebody else can say it. How many men showed up that hadn't been here in years? 3 men showed up that hadn't been here in years. Power of prayer. Amen. I'm talking years. Tamara, how long had it been since David had been here? 2 years. And I could go on down the list. Men are starting to see, they're starting to recognize that it's coming from prayer. 2 Timothy says, for the time will come where they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust they'll heap to themselves teachers having itching ears. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear today. You might hate me after today. You may not like me anymore. You may want to take me outside and stone me. But I didn't write that. Did I? I didn't write it. They'll turn away their ears from the truth, and they'll be turned to fables. But watch in everything. Endure affliction, do the work of an evangelist, and make full proof of your ministry. If I didn't sit up here and tell you what's going on today, I would be a hypocrite, a liar, a deceiver, and I would just be leading you straight to hell. I don't want to do that. God has placed people in your care to pray for, to work for, and I want to see that come about. So I'm reminding you of the calling that God has called you to. He didn't call us just to attend church. James 4 says, if anyone that knows to do good and they don't do it, that's what's sin. That's what's wrong with the world. I'm telling you, you know what to do, but you don't want to do it. So how are we going to change things? This is how you do it. I got a list here. 4 points I'm going to make for you. Each point's got a few bullet points, but each one, write it down, make it something active in your life. Don't leave here saying, well, that was another sermon. I liked it, I didn't like it, whatever. I want you to leave here with this powerful point. Number one, if you're going to have power in your ministry, in your house, and you want to see God's house full and you want to see your loved ones saved, this is how you're going to do it. Number one, pray. It's the power behind every ministry. You cannot do anything without prayer. Have a list of 5 people on that prayer list. And I say 5 because here's why. Sometimes, if I want to see something happen, I'll start praying for an individual, but I won't see the results 5, 10, 15 years. But at the same time, if I'm praying for 5 people, the chances I'm going to see God working are going to manifest more. And if I want to see God and I don't want to be discouraged, I want to see Him working, start praying for at least 5 people, but do it daily, every day. I want you to pray for opportunities. That's what I want you to ask Him for. For each one of these individuals, God, give me an opportunity, an open door to share my faith with them. If my kid comes to me and my kid's having a bad day, I don't want to just tell them it's going to be okay. I want to tell them why it's going to be okay. I want to point them back to Jesus' feet. Have a spiritual mindset, an attitude of prayer. As you're going about your day, don't just pray in the morning. Do it all day long. Be thinking about, how am I going to win that person that works next to me at work? How am I going to start a conversation with them, Lord? Open up a door. Don't put it off. If that person, somebody you know, asks for prayer, don't put it off. Pray for them immediately. Utilize your senses as a reminder. One of the things that my wife did for me, and it's been amazing, she made me a prayer board. I got one here, I got one at home. I want to have one in my other churches. And on that prayer board, sometimes I might forget someone. So when I walk by that prayer board and I see it, I'm reminded, because of my senses, I see it. I'm reminded, oh yeah, I got to pray for that person, and I forgot to do that this morning. And so utilize your senses. Make something like an alarm on your phone that goes off every day at a certain time. Put a note up on a sticky window in your bathroom, if that's what it is, or your bed before you go to bed. Make sure you have something that you can see or hear that says, oh yeah, pray. Number 2 on the list. Ask for God's Spirit behind that power. And then number 2, it's important to have integrity in your lifestyle. Have you ever heard someone say, preach the gospel, but when all else fails, live the gospel? The mindset behind it is, be a living example. But did you know that the gospel is actually words that come out of your mouth? So if somebody's watching you, it tells them you're a good person or whatever, but it doesn't bring them to Christ. So having integrity isn't necessarily just being a good person. Having integrity is not being a hypocrite. So don't be a hypocrite. And if you find yourself that you've done something that feels hypocrisy, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to that person with humility and say, you know what, the other day I was not a good example. And just admit what you did and ask for forgiveness and tell them, I was convicted by God. I'm not a good person. I messed up. I'm sorry. Move on. It's not a lifestyle. Being a person of integrity, it is if you are going to, it is a lifestyle, but what I'm saying is, it's not, you cannot win somebody by being a good person for Christ. You understand that? If you're going to bring somebody to Jesus' feet, they got to hear the news. And the news shouldn't be bad news. It shouldn't be a bunch of food with a bunch of black pepper on it. It should be seasoned with salt, something that makes it a little more tasty. Whatever they're going to hear, they may not like it. I'll give you guys a little salt before this message is over. It's not all pepper. Work your own soil. I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to burden you to get out there in the world and win all of Ketchum. That's not the message. When Christ sent them out, He said, I want you to work in your house. I want you to work with your kids, your family members, your friends, your relatives. That's where I want you to work. That's where I planted you. That's where I want you to work. That's your garden. Don't abandon your garden, though, and go start working in someone else's garden, somebody you've never met, don't know anything about, because that's not where God has called you to. You'll push them off before you'll help them. So work your own soil. Also, ask for God's guidance and spirit again, because it's the only way you're going to be successful and have integrity, because every one of us are hypocrites. Like it or not, stay connected to the vine, and the way you're going to do that is by having Bible study both privately and communitively. There's a big push right now in the internet world, social media. I'm seeing it all over the place. People send me reels all the time. Sometimes I get to watch them, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll share them if they send them to me and I like them. But in these reels, what I'm noticing, there's a trend. And it says, basically, God didn't design the church as a community. You can worship God at home all by yourself. You know what happens when you segregate yourself from the world, when you stop being a part of a community? What happens when you grow old and you need help? And you become the weak one. You were strong at one point and you could defend for yourself, but what happens when you get to that age you can't defend for yourself anymore and now you need someone else to rely on? And you haven't been part of a community. Now what? You may not be the one that needs help right now, but there is somebody that needs that help. And eventually you too will need that same help. So stay connected to the vine, because God did establish the church. We're a family. Y'all might not like me as your brother, but if you're related to me, if you're related to Christ, you're related to me. Embrace the pruning process. In order to be an effective evangelist, if that's what you want to call it, a person in your family who's preaching the message, in order to be effective, you too are going to go through times where you're going to hear things you don't like, and God's trying to cut something off out of your life, trying to say, don't cater to that, don't give in to that, get rid of it. And it's not going to feel good. But in order to have be a person of integrity, you're going to have to embrace the pruning process. It's not always on top of a mountaintop. Sometimes you're in a valley. Once you're prayed up and you're developing the character of Christ by integrity, it's time to get to work. If you're there, it's time to get to work. If you're saying you have integrity and you're saying you're a prayer warrior, it's time to get to work. Before anybody goes to work, how many of you go to work while you're sleeping? Anybody sleepwalk here and go to work? You got to wake up, right? Hey, if you're going to be a worker for God's kingdom, you got to wake up to spiritual things. You have to wake up to the spiritual world and understand things from a spiritual mindset. Then you got to get dressed. You don't go to work in your underwear, right? No. You put on your clothes. In the book of Ephesians, the Lord says that you got to put on the full armor. You got to put your armor on. If you're going to be a successful worker for Christ's kingdom, you got to put your armor on. Then you eat something healthy before you leave the house, hopefully. Most people don't even eat breakfast anymore, and it shows by 12 o'clock. But if you'll eat a healthy breakfast, you'll go a lot further in life. Same thing is true with spiritual warfare. If you're going to be if you're going to be a worker for God's kingdom, you got to be healthy. Wake up and eat some breakfast. You know how we eat spiritual food? How do we eat spiritual food? That's right. Eat it. Eat it. Get it in your body. Lock up your home. When you leave, do you leave your house unattended for anybody to break in and do what they want to? No. So if you're going to be a worker for God's kingdom, how do you lock up your home? Pray over it. Pray over your family. That's the home I'm talking about. Don't leave your family members unattended out there, unprotected. Pray over them. Be involved, engaged in their life. Know what's going on and how you can help. Keep them safe. Leave the comfort of your own home. Your work in your house, you may look around and say, well, my husband's walking with the Lord. My daughter's working with the Lord. My son's walking with the Lord. I'm working with the Lord. There's no need for me to be working. There's nothing here to do. hey, start with your neighbor now. Because over there, your neighbor's house is falling apart and they need some prayer and they need some encouragement. They need words of wisdom. They need a ride to church. They need something. So work where it's needed. A worker earns wages. They get paid for the work they did. You know where you're going to get paid for doing the work for God's kingdom? Huh? When you get to heaven. You're not going to see it here. Because the wages that God is going to give you outweighs a single dollar or $1 million or $1 billion. What He's going to give you is going to make you far happier and far more wealthier than what He could ever give you here. So you're storing up your treasures in heaven. Anybody want to get to heaven and the person that you truly love is not there with you? I don't either. So I don't think it's too much for me to say, pray for them. There's a lot of people who are not here. You guys told me before I got here that there was up to 200 people here sometimes. Where are they at? We're still looking. We got to keep them in prayer. Daily, praying. I told you the power of prayer brings them. Return home and rest up for another day. That's the importance of the Sabbath. You're going to work hard for God's kingdom. He expects you to get rested up and get ready to go for another week. So don't forsake the Sabbath. Don't forsake the gathering of the saints. And number 4, when you get to work, don't think you got to win everybody and do all the work by yourself. You have a big family. Nobody's asking you to overwork yourself. I'm asking you just to work. And in order to do that, you need to have a good balance. Work with other people. Understand their talents and work side by side with one another. Try to get that big fish in on the ground. Anybody ever been fishing? You like, what's the favorite part of fishing? Catching it. It's the struggle, right?
Yes, the fight.
That's the fight. If you got somebody you love and they're not willing to come to Christ, they're not willing to come to church, and you're talking to them and they're struggling, think of it as a joy. Picture yourself talking to that person and they're on the end of your fishing rod. I'm going to get them. I'm going to get them. I'm going to get them. And you're waiting to get that, set the hook. Have a good balance. It's not our job to try to win the world. We're not the Savior. All we got to do is talk to them and bring them to the job. Once you've done your job, you've done your job. I'm not asking you to change their heart. I'm just asking you to speak to them, pray for them, give them the truth, invite them, pick them up. We can share what we know, but we cannot change the minds and the hearts of them. We're only tools in His hand. We're not His hand. God wants everyone to know the joys of winning a soul from our obedience, not from our wisdom. So if you come into contact with somebody that you care about and they don't want to hear it, just be praying. Don't stop praying just because they don't want to hear what you have to say. Maybe they're not to that point yet. But if you keep praying and asking for open doors, eventually something's going to happen, something's going to give way, and they're going to start to ask you questions. People that want to know things, they ask questions. People that just know everything, they don't care what you know. They're not looking to grow. So don't overwork yourself and don't overdo it. If we don't, will the Lord find faith when He gets back? Is He going to find you being faithful? Or is He going to find you at the picket line, refusing to work? Matthew 9:37 says, the harvest is ready. It's there. What's missing? The workers. There's no workers. Nobody wants to work for God's kingdom anymore. So I'm not trying to shame you. I'm trying to bring you to an awareness today. Maybe you don't like the sermon. I didn't tickle your feet. I don't know. But you guys love me, I hope. I hope you can look past me saying what I'm having to say today, because I didn't write the Bible. I didn't make the message up. It comes from God's heart. And I don't want you to hear my words today. I want you to hear God's heart. That His children are out there dying in a sinful world, and there's nobody bringing Him like the paralytic friend. There's nobody bringing them to His feet. And so I'm just trying to get you to see it from God's perspective, God's point, and that you would say, I want to be a worker. I want to take the talent, whatever it is He gave me, I want to start to pray about it and engage with the community, engage with my family. I want to be a part of this. And that's all I'm asking you to do. And if that reaches your heart and you want to stand and be a part of God's kingdom, I want to invite you to do that. Don't stand just because everybody else is standing. But I want to pray for those who are willing to do that. God, as you look around the room and you search the hearts, you know who is standing because today you spoke to them. And you also know who's standing just because everybody else is standing. You know the ones that need to be prayed for, and you know the ones that need to be praying, God. And I just pray for them today, myself included in this, God, that we would have an opportunity to bring someone we really care about back to your house, back to your feet, back to a part of this family, working in the kingdom so we can bring about this work and get it finished and be done with this. I'm ready to be in heaven. And I know that many of us are. So I'm praying that you give us wisdom. I'm praying you give us strength and health and blessings from heaven, Jesus. Touch those here that are standing for your word. We ask it in your name. Amen. One thing left I want to share with you before you leave. It's quick. I was the other day I was praying about a neighbor I had. You don't have to sit. It'll be quick. And I said, Lord, I want to win that person for your kingdom. How can I win them? This guy's a tattooed up, whiskey drinking big guy. And he's standing there and I'm thinking, man, I really want to talk. So I just start building a relationship with him. I'm praying, I'm talking to him, just not about religious things. He doesn't even know I'm a pastor. I even one day wore a shirt, had my pastor name on it, blew right past him, he didn't even see it. About 2 months goes by, and I'm sitting there on my couch, and I'm reading something, getting prepared for Wednesday night. I got my suit on, I'm ready to go. And I hear these words straight to my heart from God. Now's the time. And so I got up, knowing exactly what He wanted me to do. I got up. I went next door to talk to that man. And as I walked around to his camper over there, he was loading up, getting ready to leave. And I said, where are you headed? He said, man, I'm out of here. I can't find any work. And I said, oh, man. He said, well, why are you all dressed up? And I said, well, I'm a pastor. I was going to come talk to you, a little bit. He said, you've been a pastor? He said, how long have you been a pastor? And I said, a couple of years. He said, how come you didn't invite me to your church? I kind of hurt a little bit. In my mind, I justified it. I was like, well, I was thinking I was trying to build a relationship with you before I just threw it on you as a pastor. Most people don't just really receive that, They're like, oh, he's a religious nut. I didn't want to push him away. But I was in prayer, and I was working, and the Lord caught my attention, and it caught his attention, and a relationship was built. So I gave him one of my cards. And I said, listen, this ain't over. I don't know where you're going, but I want you to have my card, because if you want to do Bible studies, you want to talk, pray, anything, give me a call. And so the guy was like, yeah, all right. So he took my card. And then he turns around after I'm walking away, and he says, well, wait a minute. You got a church in Miami? And I said, yeah. And he said, I'm not going to be far from there. When I come back in a couple of months, I'll come see you. You never know what's going to happen. He may show up, he may not. Yeah, so keep the man in prayer. I'm going to pray for him, and I'm hoping he'll show up.
What's his name?
Josh. Yeah. So keep him in prayer. All right? You're dismissed. Oh, do we have a closing song?
No.
Okay, you're dismissed.
No.